traffic and all that.
Who is it, do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I didn't bring it up because I didn't realize.
It's not today though, right? It's not on our agenda, is that how this works?
What's this now?
I didn't realize you were gonna be here, otherwise I would
Marge,
have
isn't
brought
that
it
how?
up. Yeah, you can talk about it.
That's fine.
I mean, you could bring it up that you're gonna
Right,
have me
for a
discuss
future
it.
agenda.
Correct. But we just can't chat about it.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
So so we're clear, it rained today. Rob Pilch in the fire department told me that it was only gonna rain for 9.5 minutes. I would just like everyone to know that it rained exactly 9 minutes. He gave it an extra half minute.
We're live? All right. It's 5:30 PM. I'd like to start our Public Works meeting. For all of our viewers, let's go ahead and announce ourselves, starting with me. Alderman Ruiz, 6th Ward, Aldermanic Chair.
Bob Schiller, City of Berwyn, Public Works Director.
Rob Cabone, 5th Ward Alderman, committee member.
Bob Fay, 4th Ward Committee Member.
Margaret Paul, city clerk. Sandra Anderson, deputy city clerk.
All right, now that we've called to order, we move into open forum. There are no public representatives at this time, so I'm gonna go ahead and close open forum and move right into our first agenda item, alley cleanup funding. Director Schiller was gonna bring some pricing on different items that we discussed at our last meeting for review and comment.
There's just some examples here of, different types of gloves, and they're nominal in cost. I also brought in a price for like, an adjustable, kind of small debris type leaf rake, stuff like that. Put a couple of those in the, packet there, and, there'd probably be some kind of storage bag or something to put it in. And then, go from there. Roll of garbage bags, type of stuff.
Yeah. How much are you thinking, per kit you think would cost us?
If I did a couple of these rakes, and then a package of, and I don't know how many gloves you're looking to have in the package.
Well, I'm leaning more towards these lower end ones. I think these would be really pretty sufficient for yard work, not the higher end ones that you have here.
Yeah, either one. These are just a little thicker for if you're picking up glass and stuff like that. The others have a little bit of material between your fingers and,
Right.
and everything else, but yeah, that's fine. I can order them for, like I said, it's here about $35 a dozen. So if I got a dozen, a couple of dozen pairs per, or a dozen and a half pairs per kit, roll of garbage bags, couple of rakes.
And would the rake, would we require the rakes to be returned?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, the whole package would be returned.
Oh, whatever's not
It would
used?
be in like a bag, like a baseball bat bag
Okay,
or something to that effect, to store it, zip
Okay.
it all up, put it in.
You're not gonna ask them to return dirty gloves, are you?
Are we gonna spend $50 per pickup on new gloves?
I don't know, nobody's gonna wanna put their hands in them.
I can throw a box of the nitrile gloves in there too,
That you put at those little
yep, the
glass rubbery things
Yeah.
that you put underneath.
that they can use inside the gloves if they choose. And I can wash them periodically as well.
you said $50 oh,
Yeah,
Care
but
package?
if I do a dozen and a half, it'd be 35 plus half again.
so it'd be a dozen gloves.
So it'd be $50 for gloves, $40 or, $40 for the rakes. Roll of garbage bags in a bag. So we're probably looking at $125 to $150 a bag, complete.
Do you have recycling bags in there?
Cause if they're like, if they have grass and weeds, you can't put those in garbage bags.
Yeah, we discussed that at our last
Oh,
meeting.
sorry.
Throw it all in there, because
Okay.
everything that goes into a lawn bag will be contaminated.
Okay.
Interesting.
Cigarette butts, wrappers, all that stuff
Yeah,
contaminates it,
Okay.
so we just throw it in there and
Makes
dispose of
sense.
it. Cause there's gonna be as much garbage as there will be other stuff. So,
I like so where I work at my day job at Chicago Cares, we do a lot of cleanups, we do a lot of big outdoor projects. And we use these Duramasters, if we're gonna be.
the leather gloves,
Yeah, these guys right here. If we're gonna ask them to return them, I think it might be nice to go with these, and if you have something that's going underneath, that's cool, or something that's more throwaway, but I think we've used these over and over again and washed them and cleaned them and kept them fresh, so I think,
and I could do a dozen of each,
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah. Okay.
All right, so then the care package would consist of one rake, 12 pairs of gloves, plastic waste bags, and yard waste bags, correct?
No yard waste bags, just plastic waste bags. Be a roll of bags,
you think one rake though?
a couple, I do two.
2 rakes.
You want 12, or you want like 18 pairs of gloves?
I don't know.
I think
Depends on
12
what the
gets you.
response is.
12 would be enough,
I
people bring
think
their own
12 is
stuff.
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
That helps set everybody up just in case people forget or.
Correct, most people bring their own stuff.
Right, how many, do we wanna put together?
Well, I think in the beginning, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 at least? Minimum? maybe?
10 kits?
Yeah.
Oh.
I
Don't you
don't
think you're
know
gonna
that-
need to go
yeah.
more?
No, I don't think you're gonna need to go that
Not for
way.
starters.
Really?
I don't think you're
Yeah, I
gonna
don't think
get,
you're
I
gonna go
don't
that
think
way,
you're,
I go
I
with
think,
5 kits and call it a day right now.
No
I don't think
kidding.
you're gonna get, an overwhelming rush on the same day.
What kind of a push are you gonna do on this?
The only one-
Advertising or media wise?
It's gonna be the aldermen putting out on their pages, advertising it and what have you. And
Okay.
if we get 5, and all 5 go out, we ask them to post it and make it another weekend. Because the thing is, the only weekend that's gonna go crazy as far as that is gonna be like the Earth Day. That'll probably be a popular one,
Okay.
but otherwise, it's one of those things, we get what we can reasonably store and what we're gonna reasonably use, cause there's no reason to just leave them sit on a shelf and rot.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with a minimum of 5, maximum of
Yeah,
10.
we
for
can
this
always
year.
order more in the future if it goes
Okay.
well.
I don't think it's gonna be that difficult to prepare extras if you need them, right? Cause you'll have the inventory, so to speak.
I'll start purchasing.
And we have to remember they get returned, so I
Right.
don't think we're gonna have more than 10 scheduled in one weekend or 5,
Yeah, I'm gonna get, and what I'll do is I'll stock up on extra gloves, cause I'm sure there's gonna be gloves that disappear and.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bob, will this be a separate budget line item so that we can keep track of what you're spending?
Not unless we have Ben set something else up,
Okay,
because that's not the way we're set up budget-wise.
okay.
I mean, I can pull the receipts.
Well, I'm just saying because if this continues to increase, then that continues to come out of your budget, and so that means you're shifting
I'll,
cost around.
I will,
I don't expect this to be
no,
like
I'll,
overly expensive,
I'll
but as it
internally
grows.
track it, it's not a budget
Okay.
item that one.
What are you looking at, about $500 or less right now, right?
If we're gonna do 5 kits, probably close to 7,
Okay.
just because of the
With
bags
the
and everything
rakes,
else.
rakes,
Yeah,
okay.
rakes and bags and all
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay.
That stuff should be, maybe a once-a-year purchase.
Just track
You
it
know, I
with
mean, it's
receipts.
gonna be a reoccurring is garbage bags and,
Right,
replenishing gloves.
sounds good.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry, I know I'm coming in late in the game here. This is you're talking solely the alley cleanup, correct? So when the aldermen do their ward cleanups, this isn't gonna overlap in?
It has nothing to do with it.
No, they've got this stuff handled when it comes to that type of thing. They've got their own supplies for all that.
I have a question. You, at your last meeting, you talked about how this is gonna be organized, like, you're gonna have a form and you want our office to, like, handle that through, like,
Well,
block
that was,
parties?
you gonna bring the forms today?
Here you go.
This is what I was.
I don't know, this was another
This is
one
what
for
they-
sign up, but then we decided maybe not to do the sign up, I forgot what we did.
Yeah,
So it was just maybe the top one, March.
yeah, you guys created this, so we talked about how you guys put together, these two forms. And then, we were talking through opportunities, like just different ways it could work, but, one being that maybe it comes in, the request comes in through your office and then gets passed to, Public Works and to the alderman of that ward, so that the alderman can take the kid over to that family or that
Okay.
person applying, and then Public Works is notified of the, the pickup date and all that good stuff.
Did we come up with a time frame of how, I mean, if they come in on a Wednesday and they say we wanna do this on Saturday, do you have like a time frame? Like,
At least 2 weeks in advance.
okay, that's what I'm
It's
getting
gotta
at.
be, I mean, in order for logistics to work and planning and all that stuff, it's gotta be at least a couple of weeks.
Cause the thought process we
Right.
had
Much
at the
like the
last
block
meeting.
parties. I mean, it should almost mirror the block party procedures.
Yeah.
Does it go to council?
That's 4 to 6, no count.
No, it doesn't.
Right? Block parties are what, 4 to 6 weeks advance?
Well, block parties, according to
We
the
asked for
application, is 8 weeks,
8
but
weeks,
we
oh.
don't
Okay.
necessarily honor that because,
Depends if we can get it on, an agenda on time.
Okay. Yeah, this doesn't.
So
we
this-
just don't want people coming in at the last minute.
Right,
and-
not on Thursday for Saturday.
Right, right.
The only question I have then, that I would like you to think about, is that if we are gonna hand out and receive the application and send it to the alderman, we're gonna have to know how many, kids are there. We're gonna have to keep a schedule and say, okay, we've got 5 openings for August 25th. We have 5 openings for August, the next week.
You can just
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
it
are
going.
we
I
doing
mean,
the
we're-
scheduling then too?
I mean, this is probably only through September, October, November, nobody's gonna do
Do
anything.
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Right?
Well, I would say October may still be an
Maybe, yeah.
probability, cause it's
Right.
not,
Maybe just
it's
keep a
cooler
calendar.
too, so people may opt out to do them later.
So we would
Old
have to
school.
coordinate with maybe Darlene to see how many kits were returned, so that we know how many slots you have available.
Right.
So I think having a sort of point by point for the resident to follow is critical. So, the 2 weeks,
Do we require,
when they should be returned, where to leave the waste, things
Where
like
they're being
that.
picked up and where they're being returned,
do we
really key.
require a
Deposit?
deposit? So that way we're sure we get our bags back, the kids back.
Good question.
That actually becomes a whole different issue.
That's a lot of work.
Yep,
I-
that would handle your end, right, guys?
Well,
No,
the-
that
well,
would-
we-
that
we
would
don't
end up
collect
going
any
from
money.
there
Right,
over
so-
to the collectors, and then the reimbursements for the
Right.
collect, it would be an absolute.
Let's go on the honor system for now. If it turns out to be a problem, we'll,
Well, I think them filling out the form with their address.
right,
name,
and phone number,
is-
there we go. We can work with
Worst
that.
case, we're knocking on the door
Right.
asking for
Hey,
it,
where's that
or
kid?
we just
Right?
know that
Well-
they're not able to host another one, you know what I'm saying?
Then
They
you
didn't
have
return
an
the
issue
materials
if they
last
don't
time.
return
Right.
it, are you gonna
Yeah,
bill
no
them
exchange
for
of
the
money. Let's
material?
just go on the honor system for now.
Then I present it to
I
the
feel like if
local-
people are gonna come in, this is just me, and I guess maybe I'm a bleeding
Good.
heart.
Good
I
for
feel
you.
if they're
Alley
gonna
cleanup
come
people.
in and sign up to do an alley cleanup, that they're gonna take the time to pick this stuff up and take the time to
Correct,
return
100%.
it. I kinda feel like that's just me.
Conscientious people.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
They're not taking off with the
Yeah.
goods.
I wanna believe that.
Right.
So,
All right. Sounds good.
all right, honor system.
And I know it has really nothing to do with me.
Okay,
I just do what my boss tells me to do.
And then do we,
is
So
this just
it's-
gonna be for weekends or any day of the week?
I think any day of the week, as long as it's a 2-week notice, because
Excuse
it
me.
needs to, one, get to Public Works so they can drop it off. Two, the alderman should be notified whether they're gonna actively drop it off or it has to be picked up by the resident. And then as far as some of these,
When's your launch date?
good question.
I gotta get the stuff there still, depends on supplies and what have you.
So maybe
August
August
1st.
first?
August 1st.
Well, I guess,
If I can get into that, I'll let you know next council meeting where I'm at with supplies.
okay. So why don't we say, expected?
Anticipated start date August, the weekend of.
First weekend in August, how's that?
Let's figure out what that date is.
Well, I mean, number one, it still has to go to council for approval. So that would be the next meeting, which is
25th.
25th.
Well, I think I put out council to.
Be discussed here.
Bring it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be the 25th,
Yep,
and then once it's approved, then
kickoff
we
would be
figure,
like
That weekend.
weekend of August, either the weekend of July 3rd, no, weekend of August 5th.
Yeah, that would be that weekend, right?
There's a weekend in between.
Is there?
That's fine, gives enough
But
time.
yeah, give it enough time to get everything in.
You wanna add a thing of twine so that they can bundle branches, cause I told them here that they can cut branches in small trees into 4-foot lengths to be picked up by waste management. Bundle them with twine and set out with your yard debris. Alright, well, anyway, you guys can worry about that.
so is there anything else that's required from Rob that you both are thinking of so that that can be hashed out now?
No, we hadn't just talked.
The form is pretty,
I mean, they build all this, so they,
We put the form,
They put the
well,
form
Marge
together.
put the
Yeah.
form together. I don't wanna take any
I
credit.
haven't seen it since I gave it to Rob, so.
If you love the form, I did it. If it's so-so, then maybe Marge did it. I'm kidding. Marge actually did it,
yeah, I think the.
which I
only
thought was
thing-
pretty thorough.
I think there was only one thing about like pickup, but we decided that would just be pick a corner, just put it on the street in the corner, right?
Right, at one of the corners of the alley, yeah, instead of putting it out in front of people's garages
Right,
and trying to drive down, because dump trucks can
Then
be,
do we need to notify waste management that we put it there?
we're picking. it up.
City's picking
Public
up.
Works, okay. So we need to just confirm with you, Public Works,
Yeah.
where it's being left.
And that's why Darlene needs to know, so that, or
So she
Darlene
can
and I,
schedule it?
in an email.
Like
Send
I,
it to
like I
both.
do with the,
Right,
okay.
just like the others, so send it to us, so one of us will get set up,
On one day.
a pickup, you know. It's this alley, so check this end and this end for garbage bags.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
That's so confusing to me. Well, you know, it's the alley between Clarence and, you know what I mean? Which alley is it?
One with the garbage bags.
I'll figure it out.
Okay, well, based upon, just our brief discussion about this, I'll fit in some of the details that we talked about today, about, that we need 2 weeks, that you're in trouble with clerks, whatever, and then I'll shoot it over to you. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
And then you can
perfect.
fill me in about what else has to be on it. All right, I can do that.
And you'll put something on the agenda for the 25th, Alicia?
yeah, once I know everything, I'd like to see the final product, just, so once
Sure,
you all
I'll
have
send it to
hashed
both
it
of
out,
you.
you can send it to me, and then,
I'll send you
once I know
both
it's
the word.
final, then we can
Word
add it to the agenda.
We can submit it to the agenda for the
Correct.
25th.
So do you
Yes.
think on the form though, do you think you wanna have a little something on there, like in the event that these items are not returned? I'm just saying.
They're unrecorded.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, it'd be like a little kind of disclaimer in here, like if these items aren't returned,
Right.
you're gonna be responsible for X amount of dollars or something, I mean.
Well, I think just that they're excluded from participating in it again, I mean, why don't we give them
Yeah,
the
leaving their phone
materials if
numbers,
they
their
didn't
addresses,
return the
everything,
last
so.
one? I mean, I think the
Come knock
honest,
on the door if it's not returned, right?
Well, I'm just saying, if at any
that's
point
just
we
it.
feel, at any point you feel like you wanna charge them for it, it's gonna be difficult after the fact if you haven't kinda let people
Put
know
the
added
word
upfront.
out.
frontage.
I don't care, it's not, do you know what I mean? I'm just making a suggestion that at least if you have it in
Do we
print
put
up
something like,
front.
48 hours to return after event, or what?
Well, yeah, especially if we're recycling for others to use it, I think
Mhm.
72 hours max, it has to be back so that it's available for the
By
next.
Wednesday, so
weekend.
it can get packed back up for
And I think
distribution.
anyone who doesn't return it, just they're banned from being able to do it again, because, I mean, we're not talking hundreds of dollars for each
No, right.
packet. I think to send an employee out
2
there
rakes and dozen
to knock
gloves,
on the door is
bags, you know,
just-
it's, yeah.
I'm not,
I just don't,
I think it
anybody's
still
gonna
costs
do it
us
like,
more in revenue to
you know,
have somebody
who's
knock
gonna
on
do
the
it is
door
gonna
and
return
they're
it.
never home,
Well, we
you know what I
hope.
mean? So
yeah,
they'll just be removed from being able to participate in the future.
okay, but just maybe return within 72 hours.
Yeah,
There, in this suggested letter, this was just a mock-up, right? I had register your alley cleanup event, blah, blah, blah. Take pictures of your team in the alley, want you to share your success and pride. Do you want me to check with Claudia to see if they can, put something on the Public Works page to show these happy clean alleys? Your
Why
page
not?
is, your page is kinda boring.
Yeah,
On the website?
Yeah.
don't take it personally.
Well,
Yeah, we're boring, I mean, everything we do is underground.
why
Well,
not,
the
Bob?
thing is, you always get all the negative stuff, this is an opportunity to.
Why not?
It doesn't hurt if I check with her to see
No,
if they could do something.
You can use that on the old Public Works.
I think families would appreciate that too, being acknowledged, you know?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Showing off their pride, I think that would be a twofold win.
I can do that.
So how do we,
Do you have on there something about making a list of garbage cans that need repair?
Oh, no, that's a good one.
Oh,
And then turn that in as well with the bag, and we'll get it and get it to our waste hauler for garbage can repair.
Can we help you?
Hello, hi, is this the, Public Works?
it
committee
is.
meeting? Hi, is
Yes.
it open to the public?
Yes, we started at 5:30 though,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you're
sorry,
welcome to
yeah,
join
okay.
us. No worries, have a seat.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, could you sign in, please?
Oh, yeah.
I'll have, you can take it to your seat.
That's a nice idea.
Anything else we need to remind ourselves of from our last meeting?
I think that was, the garbage one was a big one, thank you for lifting that up. Do we need to get it on council, do we need to make a motion now, or how does that work?
We need to vote on it, I think, right, to move
Yeah,
forward.
we should
Do
definitely,
do it next meeting, after you get your final paperwork, you can present all of that stuff at one
Yeah,
time.
it's
This
gonna
is our-
delay-
This is our program, this
It's
is
gonna
what
delay
we're
it
gonna
more.
do,
Yeah.
and get approval.
what next meeting? You talking about council meeting
Yeah.
or our meeting?
No, next council meeting.
Right, but he's asking if we should make the motion for that.
Sure,
So I think the motion should be contingent as long as everything is
Looks okay,
hashed
yeah.
out and
Sure.
it's prepared by Wednesday.
clerk's office do a good job, it's gonna be ready for us, you know,
Then
for
it'll
the
go on the
25th.
council meeting, so the motion should be
Wow,
done.
So, yeah.
you're a good politician.
Do you wanna make that motion, Rob?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we, move forward with the alley cleanup program, including, all the different aspects and elements that we need to make it organized and work smoothly, and, put it on the city council agenda for the next city council meeting.
You wanna
Second.
include in your motion the cost of the kits?
Oh, yes, and that the cost of each kit would be around $125?
About $150.
$150 a kit. And we'll-
Second.
there.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
All right,
closing that item.
here we go.
Yeah, we got something done.
Thank you, guys.
And then, moving on to our next agenda item, which are different, variables in regards to handicap parking ordinance.
Hey,
I will let Marge and Sandy take the floor on that, because there's been a couple of items that they wanted to openly discuss.
Oh, did you bring yours up?
yeah, I brought mine. Here, is
That's
that
for Bob.
Thank you.
I didn't expect, I didn't read.
Did you bring copies of the talking points?
Sorry.
There you go.
I didn't expect extra.
Thank you.
Pass one to Bob. So thank you for having us, present some issues that we're having at the meeting. So our office is charged with the initial paperwork and management of the handicap parking in the city of Berwyn. And so we, Sandy and I put together today a list of talking points that we really need your guidance on, and we'd like to make some suggestions and also just point out some issues that we're gonna have in the future. We put together on, let's see, what page is it? Some statistics, Sandy did, about the number of handicap applications that we're getting. We're averaging about 52 a year. If you can see this, the staff approves, let's say 2022, the staff approved 10. The staff denied 20. The alderman overrode staff denials at the rate of 12. So last year we had 42 new handicap locations in the city of Berwyn. What this adds up to is a huge number of, feet of parking space that has been taken away from residents. And today we were doing just some simple math. Do you have that? You did bring it? Well,
It's over a mile of handicap spaces.
that we have so far. If you put the handicap spaces bumper to bumper, it's well over a mile in a city that has 3.9 square miles. And that's not including fire hydrants, driveways, bus stops. I mean, when I was working with Maria and Nicole Campbell earlier on this, we imagined that if you put them bumper to bumper, it would go now from Roosevelt Road almost to Pershing.
And
The
you're,
number of
and
spaces.
that's aggregate, all the wards.
Existing
Yeah.
handicaps within the city.
So how many currently do we have?
Currently, there are 200
Okay, cause you got 389.
and 48
Two,
handicap spaces installed. That includes spaces and zones.
248,
Yeah.
at
248.
18 feet apiece, so.
No.
22 to 25.
yeah.
22 feet approximately for a space and 10 feet approximately for a zone.
Do you know what the difference is, Sandy,
What do you
between
mean?
zone and parking?
How many are parking spaces?
Because you said a total of
I
248.
did not, I could count them right now for you real quickly, but I did not
Divide them.
divide that up because we didn't necessarily feel it was a
Okay.
huge
So,
situation.
so just to go through, I mean, this is just the start of a conversation, and we don't wanna take all your time this evening, but some of the ideas and some of the issues that we're having, we have handicap applicants who are renters, and when they get approved, they move to another section of town and they want immediately their handicap signs relocated. That's costly to Public Works because it's staff time and it's materials time. We're happy to do it because many of them are recent applicants. We have one on the books right now that is only applied within the year, so that it would still be valid. We already have the landlord's approval, but we have nothing in the ordinance that says that we could charge for the relocation of the signs. And it's costly, and some people can move more than once during the length of time that they live in Berwyn, and so it just adds up. And Bob can tell you the difficulty that the sign guys have right now. They get pulled off, they can't put these signs up lickety-split like people want, and we get a lot of calls from disgruntled people who wanted them yesterday.
People assume that there's somebody sitting there waiting in a chair for somebody to call for a
Yeah.
handicap sign to
We-
be installed.
Yeah, number two, we are experiencing a huge delay between the time people apply and the time that they get approved or denied. And
On council.
yeah, some of that delay is because of the process itself. It has to go through really 5 different departments. And we think that you should consider granting whatever department manages the paperwork, that once we get a staff recommendation, we go with that, and that the aldermen only weigh in during an appeal process. Because we give you the recommendation, and then you're busy people, you have to take time to look at it, you have to weigh it, maybe you drive past, maybe you talk to the people yourselves, The staff's already done a lot of that because we have CSOs who interview these people on the phone. And so there is no appeal process in the ordinance right now. If we put one in, we could just follow the staff recommendation, and, you know, thankfully we have good people that are looking at these. Follow the staff recommendation, make the decision, and then if there is a appeal, then we can pass them on to the alderman, and then you could get involved at that point to see whether or not there are extenuating circumstances, things that the CSO just didn't develop during their interview of the applicant.
Okay,
Can I comment?
can we just go through the list first? Because we do have limited time, unfortunately, if you don't mind.
Number 3, we already talked about an appeal process. We don't know what to tell people when they're unhappy with the decision, whether it went to council and got denied, or whether they got approved, but they got approved for a zone or for a parking space. And so, you know, there isn't any appeal process, and so it's hard, you know, there just isn't anything, and so we'd like to take a look at that. We'd also like you to consider capping the number of signs on the block, like 2 handicap parking signs on each side of the block. That would allow us to say that there's a limit, and that would give the staff and our department, if we were to be the ones designated to manage the handicap parking, it would give us some finality. We could say, I'm sorry, you already have 4, that's a lot of space that's already been taken up, and particularly north of 22nd Street, parking is a huge problem. Okay, drop-off zones. Nobody wants a drop-off zone. Everybody wants the full handicap parking. It doesn't, you know, it's so hard. Most of the contention that we get from residents is they're very unhappy with the fact that they only, you know, nobody knows how to pull in and put their blinkers on and get people in and get people out. Plus, it takes up valuable parking anyway. Nobody can park in the drop-off zone. Neither can the caretaker or the person that delivered that person. Once they safely get the person into the house, they have to go and they have to move their car. And so you're losing 18 feet of space when, what the heck, you might as well just give them a full 22 and let
10 feet, you're losing 10 feet.
Yeah, let people pull in and let caretakers park there. I mean, we're just at the wit's end of trying to explain to people who can use these spots and who can't. I mean, it's the amount of time that we spend on the phone trying to explain it is just takes up a lot of our time from other. We've seen in a recent past where able-bodied people and non-drivers are now being able to have full spaces when they really would only qualify for a drop-off zone according to the ordinance. And they go through, and they get this because of the appeal directly to either alderman or the mayor, so we don't have any enforcement power. One of the ordinance that we'd like to look at, the language is the ordinance now says that you have to be the owner of the vehicle, not, it doesn't say you have to be the driver of the vehicle. So if you're gonna limit handicap spaces to people, you know, handicapped drivers, we should change that, because you can own a vehicle and somebody can be driving me around and then parking there, so. It was a good ordinance when Nicole put it together, but through just experience and use, we need to tweak it a little bit. One thing that we also would like to nail down is what does reasonable access to the garage mean? We have that in the ordinance, and we deny people handicap parking because they have reasonable access, and then it gets overturned because, you know, people are using their garages for storage, or they, you know, their garage door is broken or some other reason, and it's kind of a vague term, reasonable access to a garage. Maybe we could spell it
It's a
out.
legal term. I think
Well-
it was lawyers, I think it was those lawyers.
Nicole followed the state of Illinois when she
Yeah,
initially.
I agree with you.
Okay,
We also have issues where family members who own the property are telling us that their mother or their, who they term as their renter doesn't have, they won't allow her to have access to the garage. So we also have family members who are signing the forms, so they're forging the applicants' names. We have people who are not telling us that the person has died and they're continuing to keep the signage and parking there with, and we've checked with police and, you know, we really can't pry into the condition or whether or not the person is handicapped. And so it just, the last talking point was applicants owing debt to the city. We've been pretty good at collecting some overdue fines and fees that handicapped people have for the city. It only totals maybe about $4,000 or $5,000 a year, right?
That we've collected.
Yeah. And we've, if the applicant is, works with the city and gets on a payment plan, then their application goes through. It's hard to know though if they stop paying on the payment plan, if they're current.
That's where we monitor that and keep an eye on.
Well, we don't wanna be, but that's again the language here. So
Right.
if you have a debt with the city, whether you're on a payment plan or not, you have a debt with the city. That's the bottom line. So then it becomes, you know, now, I mean, am I supposed to be checking periodically to make sure they're current or they're what, you know? And if they're not current, are we gonna pull the signs? So it makes it extremely challenging. I'm not trying to give anyone a hard time, do you know what I mean? But it just makes it a little bit more, the bottom line is, if you have a debt, you have a debt. You know, and I feel horrible for people that owe X amount of money or whatever, but they still have it, and it makes it very challenging for our department, to monitor that.
The process improved from where it was. Sandy took this over under, when Tom Pavlik was the clerk. There was no spreadsheet or anything that the city had. The city had no knowledge of where any of these signs were. And Sandy and the CSO actually went block by block and surveyed every block and every handicap sign and assigned it numbers. And so, you know, thanks to Sandy, there is a system and there is, you know, we do have an idea of where the handicap parkings are. What we did not put on the list is there's some confusion about handicap parking for churches and for businesses and how much people should be charged for that.
We don't charge currently.
If you have your own parking lot, right, the state requires you to have a certain number of handicap spots. There are businesses who want street parking with handicap signs for and they're supposed to pay a fee. And some have gotten them, some have gotten them and never paid, some have, you know,
Loading zones
they
are
have been
also
very
supposed to
good,
be
yeah.
like feet.
Well, that has nothing to do with
I got,
us.
So I don't know how you wanna, I just know that the number of requests will increase because of the, how people are aging in the city of Berwyn. I am the beginning of the end of baby boomers, and everybody I know, their knees are shot. And it's very easy for us to get recommendations from our doctors to have the state placard. And so you can no longer use that. I mean, I'm very mobile, I can still do it, but I can convince my doctor today to give me a handicap placard. And we can't afford, because our city is so small, we can't afford to have end-to-end handicap parking because our residents, there's nowhere else for other people to park, particularly north of 22nd Street where we have so many blocks, you represent them, where it's multifamily home after multifamily home. Each home might have 3, maybe more cars, and where do they go? Where do they go on street sweeping day?
And some of those blocks have side driveways,
Yeah,
so the street parking's even shorter.
just where do
More.
they go? And we can try to tighten this up a little bit, and just, I don't know.
Well, thank you, Marge. This was very thorough and a lot to definitely think about and, sort of, absorb and think about. I'll leave it open right now for questions and comments.
We'll
We've
send
got
you
some
the
time.
link to the ordinance so that you can read it and you can, you know, kind of go through these talking points and compare to what the language says in our handicap application process right now gives them an idea of what the process is. We give them the application form and then we also give them a copy of the ordinance. Really, there are some applicants that wait, what's the longest wait?
So we tell them when they pick up the application that it's an 8 to 12 week process. We're very, 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 very thorough with people that come to the window, explaining the difference between a zone and a space, explaining the need for the 8 to 12 weeks, that it goes through multiple departments. We have it typed out for them and then we verbally tell them. But in some instances, we've been waiting up to 3 months to
Wow.
get a response, to get it on council.
Waiting for a response from an alderman?
Correct.
3 months?
Correct.
And what has been the longest just in the process itself that someone has waited without an alderman response?
Sandy has to answer that.
It's
She handles
about,
it.
it's about 3 to 4 months is the longest that they've waited. I
I'm
try to,
saying once for a staff recommendation, not for an alderman approval.
You have to understand that the staff recommendation includes Nicole Campbell, who has other duties down in the engineering department.
And Dan Schiller.
No, I'm just saying it's the
Yeah.
same, so
Yeah.
someone has waited as long as 3 to 4 months just
Yeah.
to go through the
the
normal process.
minimum is 8 to 12 weeks that they wait for it to be processed. Because it has to have a community service officer, which they are, I believe, I don't wanna say shorthanded, but they, have one person. Then, once Terry notifies me that he's done that, then I have to forward it downstairs to Nicole, and we've gotta wait for her
She does.
time,
her
and then
thing.
Dan Schiller.
Dan does.
And then I send it to the alderman, this is the way the process goes currently, then it is sent to the alderman. Sometimes you guys are all busy too, you know what I mean, so sometimes I have to send a second reminder or whatever, for you to respond, then we wait to get it on council.
But I also think that there's a bottleneck with even just finding the resident home to interview them. I'm sure everyone's just not magically waiting for the CSO to come.
Well, the CSO
Well,
is
you'd be
doing phone
surprised.
interviews.
Oh, they're doing
not-
only phone
They're not,
yeah.
they're not doing, he's not doing a site
So
interview.
we have no idea what's
We have no idea.
in the garage when they
No.
say. the garage
When
is
did-
for
when did
storage.
site
Well, it's
visits
used
stop?
for storage for.
Probably-
During COVID,
Probably.
So ever since COVID, they have not,
correct, that to our knowledge, it's all, only been phone interviews.
well, that isn't
And that's a
very
police department issue
sufficient
that
efficient to
we,
me.
do you know what I mean? I can't really speak to that.
Okay, questions, comments, anyone?
Yes, so basically it's the same whether we're waiting for an alderman or not, as far as timing, right? 8 to 12
Mary
weeks.
Beth,
could
can
be
I just
3
have you
months.
introduce yourself since you came in late, if you don't mind?
Okay, Mary Beth Arenella, 7th Ward Alderman.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so basically it's the same. I personally feel, because I have gotten calls where they say, oh, well, the city said to call you. They denied me, but they said to call you. And I feel as if you're gonna deny it, go ahead and go with the denial. Taking us out of the equation is probably better. Just my personal opinion, okay? As far as an appeal process, they're gonna be right back to us.
Absolutely.
So why have an appeal process? You guys do your thing, as long as you're going to sites and actually looking to really see, you know, what the needs of these people really are. Because when I see a denial and I go to their homes, I see the need, right? So clearly they haven't been out for the last, I don't know, 3 years. So maybe, you know, work on that.
Can I just interrupt
Sure,
1 second really quick?
absolutely.
The only person that we're saying has not been out to the residents is the community service
Right.
officer. Dan Schiller, who's in Public Works, actually physically drives out to the locations. So, I mean, it's just that one person that maybe.
So there's a two process of someone going to the property.
Correct.
Two process of someone going to
But
the
does
property.
Dan actually visit and speak with them? He just
doesn't
drives
speak
by
with
to
us,
see.
he just drives to
Exactly.
locations.
Exactly.
But you don't know what's in the
No.
garage or who owns the
Right.
building or any of
Right.
that stuff.
That's typically the
Right.
CSO's
Correct.
responsibility.
Right.
Okay.
They go and they look in the garage, because
Right.
there's been times, we had one occasion where a person applied and did before COVID, and the CSO went to the garage, and they're storing a classic car in the garage.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I have to say, when you talk about the cap, the number of signs on the block, I was told it was 3 per block. But you're saying there is no, certain amount?
Well,
There's
there's some-
nothing per the ordinance.
Some blocks have 5.
Okay. So
I
was
mean,
told
in the more,
That's
if you don't
10%
have
of the
any,
parking for the entire block.
yeah,
A typical block has between 46 and 52 spaces.
if you don't have a limit on it, if we don't have a limit in the ordinance, you could have 6, you could have 7, it just depends on.
Right, so definitely, I mean, put a cap on it. Drop-off zones, I agree, I think they're useless. When you talk about owner of the vehicle, so when someone gets a placard from the state, it's for that person, it doesn't state, I don't know if anybody has seen it.
It's not for a vehicle, it's for an
It's for that
individual.
person.
Correct.
So wherever that person goes, if I'm taking that person to the store, I can park in a handicap and that person can put their placard.
Okay, there's a fine, let me tell you the fine line between
I'm
that.
asking.
No, I'm just gonna tell you the fine line between.
Uh-huh.
I'm handicapped, okay? You're gonna drive me to the grocery store.
Mhm.
We're gonna go to the grocery store. You drop me off at the door because I'm handicapped. You cannot go park in a handicap space just
You're-
because my placard's in your car.
Um,
You
But
have to
people
go
do.
park, I know, but I'm just saying,
Right,
this is a
okay.
pet peeve with me, I'm sorry.
Right,
And
no,
I-
no, no.
I'm not
That's
trying to,
okay.
I'm not trying to take my aggression out of
No,
you.
no, no, no.
But you
don't
are
know.
not allowed to park in that space.
Okay.
Able-bodied
So then-
people are not
that's-
supposed to.
that's-
If
be
I
handicap
sit in that
spaces.
car and you pull into that space and I'm in the car with you because I'm in a wheelchair,
Right,
and then you have to help me out of the wheelchair,
right.
then you can park in that space.
Yeah, that's state law.
To drop
That's
you
the
off.
law, that is the
Okay.
state of Illinois, that
If
is
you're
the law.
if you pull into a
People don't
handicap
do it
space
properly. They
and you're
don't-
accompanying the handicapped person to the door of wherever you're going or shopping, you can park in handicap parking. But if you're making it more convenient by dropping you off at the curb in front of the store, you have to go to, you're not handicapped, so you're gonna
So, I mean, it just,
park further away.
and people don't follow it, and it's not my job to police it or whatever, but it's just, people don't follow that. I see it all the time.
What's the difference between a handicap license plate and a placard?
None.
None whatsoever.
The license plate, stays with the car. It's with the vehicle. The placard is with the person.
So, yeah, the person with the handicap placard would always have to use their own vehicle if they have the plate. The placard is transportable. You can get into everybody's car.
That's the next question.
Got it. Okay.
So is there any way that, you talk about, the individual versus, maybe the son, right, parking there, or having it under their name? Is there anywhere in the application where we could, I don't know, ask something where we could try to be more specific to see if this person does in fact even own a vehicle?
We changed the application and asked if they were the
Owner.
driver of the vehicle.
We asked if they were the driver.
But it's not in the ordinance. The ordinance says you're the owner.
Now
of the
Marge is
vehicle.
proposing that we ask if that they're the owner of the vehicle,
Right,
and they produce a driver's license.
No,
No,
we're,
we're asking if they're the driver of the vehicle.
well, a registration, it would be more of a
I'm gonna
registration
tell you, and we've had a
that
few of
shows the
them.
owner.
Well, we've had a few of them recently, to be honest with you, that they mark that they're the driver of the vehicle, and then it turns out they're not
Right.
the driver,
They're blind.
because,
I believe it.
because they're, for whatever
believe that.
reason, they don't drive. But they've marked their application that they're the driver of the vehicle. So again, I'm not a doctor, I don't really look at the position.
It only comes into play when you are trying to discern whether they're gonna get a drop-off zone or a handicap space. If you get rid of the drop-off zone, we don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of worrying about whether the owner, the driver, whoever, if they wanna disregard state law and let whoever is in their household put the placard in their car and park in there, let's stop, let's just stop. There's just so much work that we have to do.
It's just, at some
And-
point, you throw
yeah.
in the flag and go, let's move on.
Anyone
Sorry.
else? Randolph, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I do like that relocate, charge by the way.
Well, we don't have anything currently, so,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, it was good that this committee increased the handicap application and the fees, because there's a lot of staff time that goes in on this, and there's a lot of staff time that Bob has to deal with in terms of signage and putting them up or taking them down, or people who, we take them down and then they need them put back up. It's nuts.
And we're not trying to do any of it. Our suggestion is to just allow us to put it on council as a staff recommendation. The staff recommendation is to deny the request. It goes on council, it gets denied, and then when the letter goes out to the resident, the letter's gonna be totally different. The staff recommendation, because the ordinance, do you know what I mean? It's not, when you do it, and then, I don't know if we're gonna, not we, but if you guys are gonna discuss some type of an appeal process, at the end of the day, they're gonna end up calling you anyway.
But,
Do you know what I mean?
if, that is all, fine and great, but we gotta make sure that the other folks are doing their part too, that we are actually doing site
Correct.
visits. And we're checking out what's actually going on.
What's in the garage?
Yeah. It can't just be circle block.
I mean, site visits.
So maybe, police department, maybe.
Well, we'll have to have a
Get into
conversation
it
with
then.
Sonny Scartomatically,
Yeah.
because he oversees that
The CSO.
aspect of the police department. Sergio Diaz and Terry Young is usually the CSO that goes out.
I think that if someone has a ton of stuff in their garage and we're going there and they have to show us, they're not gonna fight that denial.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, God, yeah.
Still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so see, even site
Wait,
visits aren't really that.
we denied a resident who has a garage and rents the garage out.
Yeah.
And we said, we're not giving you a handicap space in front of your house because you rent your garage. And the person, God bless her, she's the nicest woman in the world, just couldn't understand why she couldn't have a space in front of her house. You have a garage, you have reasonable access
Oh
to
my
it.
gosh.
I don't know, how do we justify,
Yeah.
to do that? So I'm just saying, we get a lot of, Marge does, cause I was giving to her. Would you like to talk to my boss? But I mean, people are constantly,
Wow.
and it becomes challenging at times.
If you limit handicap parking spots to 4 per block because of recognition that other people have to park, it doesn't really matter that you have a site visit or they have, reasonable access. There are some people who need stuff in their garage. I don't know why, I can't speak for that. But, if you limit it to 4 and the 4 are used, then that's it. Reasonable access, we're spending a lot of time with the CSO interview, trying to figure out or determine what, how do you say you have too much stuff in your garage? You have enough, you have too much, you don't get
And
enough.
4 is being very generous, cause I would cap it at 2.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about, talking point 8? Is that, looking into sort of what we already have out there and kind of assessing to make sure that everything's up to the ordinance, or is that? I definitely understand what the different talking points are, but I'm just wondering, are you guys asking for a process to be able to look at what's already out there
A review,
and review it?
a review process.
Well, when we don't often ask people to give us additional medical forms from their doctor. And so when I put this on, I was thinking that maybe we should have a process where every 2 years or every 3 years, we have when the applicant comes to renew, they've already been granted the space, they come to renew the space, we say, okay, this is year 3, we need to make sure that your doctor agrees. There are some people who have the handicap placard because they've had a knee replacement. And the immediacy of their recovery would require maybe them to but after a while, when you have your knee replaced, you
6 months.
could be good to go.
6
And so
months.
maybe you don't need handicap parking. So let's put the onus on the doctor to say that the medical condition would still warrant, yeah. That's all that I put on there. And then, maybe be able to ask for a copy of a driver's license or something, because people are forging signatures, and
We've had a few
we don't know.
instances where the person who had the signs installed on their behalf passed away.
Yeah.
And the family unfortunately never notified the city. And then it becomes a very hard conversation to have with anyone, because you want to be genuine to, whatever.
Well,
but-
and the situation is that the person has been deceased for 3 years, but miraculously still renews the handicap parking.
And signs the application.
And signs the
You don't
application.
wanna be morbid and
So,
searching the obits. for
If we
God's
still,
sake.
if we do send out a doctor's form, we would be able to catch some of that, because the doctor would say, well, I don't treat this patient any longer. We wouldn't send it directly. We would ask the handicap renewal person to go to their doctor, because it would be convenient. Maybe they have an appointment closely scheduled or something, and they could do it.
Which
that way.
also opens up a whole nother can of worms, because when they don't give us back that doctor form, how long do we let it sit there before we take some type of action? Do you know what I mean? So
Well, I
it's-
think it just should follow the protocol now, that your renewal has X amount of days to be in, and then I think, if I recall correctly in some of our conversations, you even call
A
them,
second
or a
notice.
second notice saying, you have this day
You
to,
usually do what,
submit
3
and
months
reply.
before you-
we
I
give
think
them
once
30
that-
days to pay it, we send them a second notice, and we give them an additional 30 days. And
So
then
it's a
it's
minimum of 2
kind of been
months.
out there like, well, what do we do now? Because
When do you send the renewals? Usually in
September.
we send them in
6 months.
August, and we give them until September.
That's
to-
a 6-month window, most,
And then we don't pull the signs if the ground's frozen.
right, most elders would, in a 6-month period, will see a doctor. So, I don't think it's unreasonable to send a form.
It's just it's a very, I don't wanna say loose, ordinance, but it's you know what I mean?
Could be tighter.
It could be tighter, and it could be a little bit more, that we've learned now since 2011, when it was put together. We've learned a few points that we should probably, look at, consider. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and so we just probably need to put Sandy and I are both retired. And so if the clerk's office.
What year is that?
2025.
Oh, okay, just checking, I
And
wanna
then-
make sure it wasn't like
Not
next
tomorrow.
month or the end of this year.
But we're trying to put something.
I ask that every month.
Put some process down in writing, so whoever comes to take our spot would be able to follow. Sandy made up most of the procedure, and some of this we've just implemented because it made sense, but it's not really, we should probably get your approval for that going forward.
So I have a lot of, because Sandy and I have probably discussed almost every one of these bullet points in our different conversations and situations that have occurred. And a lot of these, most of these, I can say I have experienced in my tenure, working with or having to look at handicap applications. Some of these things, I have questioned myself in the past in conversations with Sandy and sometimes Marge, and we always go back to whether there's not an ordinance to fall back on, right? And that in itself creates the inconsistency, because we have 8 different aldermen who process things and review things differently. So I know in my ward, I'm probably the most dense part of the city, because my housing stock is predominantly multi-units with what I call bookends that have anywhere from 9 to 40 units. So I am truly out of space when it comes to parking. I have gone the extra miles, as I know many of my colleagues have, as far as when there's a questionable application, going out or asking the applicant to meet with them. And some have been very open to me coming to meet with them, to see them and get a better understanding of their situation. And then others have not even replied, so that just kind of confirms to me that the need is not really there if you're not willing to meet with me. So what I'd like to do is, because we are about to run out of time in the next 10 minutes, is there's a lot to unpack here. So I'd like to just collect my thoughts on each bullet point and just bring something to our next meeting and continue this conversation. Because I do like the idea of having to pay for the signs to be relocated, because that is manpower. But the other thing is, I'm almost feeling like, depending on the term of the applicant, is after so many years, maybe they just need to reapply. You
never
know,
thought of that, yeah.
you know, if it's 5 years, 3 years, 3 to 5 years, maybe they just need to reapply when they move. Because we're talking about all these different sort of check boxes that we wanna create to sort of decrease any, I don't wanna use the word fraudulent, but any possibilities of the need not really being there for a handicap sign. But I do like these ideas of follow-ups, I think those are really important. I mean, I even think that with the initial application, the tenant's lease should be included, just for proof of residency. You're gonna get a lease when you move in. Why shouldn't that be part of the application process? So if there's a family member, they're less likely to provide a lease if it's a family member, right? And if they wanna go through the work of creating one just for an application, well, that just kind of deters them a little bit, right? So I have a lot of different thoughts about it. I'll go ahead and put something in paper, and we can discuss it at our next meeting. Bob, did you wanna add
No,
anything?
if we're gonna make some of these changes, they're gonna have renewals going out by September, right? Or
Well,
I mean,
it's
at
at the
least-
end of August.
at least relocation fees, right? Put that in there, or you don't need any of that yet?
Listen, we have one that's sitting there waiting for a relocation. I already told the lady she had to pay, if it's approved, she's gonna have to pay the
Okay.
55. She didn't bat an eye.
So you don't need any of these changes for your renewals to go out?
I don't think.
Probably
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
We've got time.
Good.
But it's something that, it's just a giant that's gonna engulf us if we don't make something.
I think the number one thing that you really need to take into consideration is who's gonna be putting it on council. Is it still gonna be in the alderman's hand to put on council, or are we going to
You're
be putting
talking
it?
about approval of the application.
The initial approval, or is it just gonna be a staff recommendation type thing
Got you.
to go on there? I think that would be the biggest thing to,
Reducing the process, I think everybody would benefit. The resident would benefit, and
the
staff.
alderman would benefit, we would benefit.
Okay.
Just think about it, but thank
I
you for
will.
hearing us.
No,
We appreciate the
absolutely,
time.
and if you all don't mind, just a quick 2 minutes. I know that you were a little bit late, but you took the time to be here, so if you want to
Thanks.
introduce yourself, and if you had a question or a comment you wanted to make, I would like to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I'm Cristal Rodriguez. I'm with the Office of Congressman Garcia. I just wanted to see what the Public Works meeting was about and just get a little bit more perspective of the main issues here, and see what our office can provide or offer here. But thank you so
Thank you
much
for
for
coming.
making
Thank you
it.
for coming.
Thank you.
Apologies for
being
being
here.
late and interrupting, but yeah, thank you so much.
So you could just let the congressman know that we appreciate the funds that he has provided for infrastructure, and we're always looking for more. And motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
No,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, do we wanna schedule our next meeting? We have quite a few items to talk about. Do you wanna do a month from now? Or do we feel anything is more urgent than that?
First meeting in August is fine, but if you needed 2 weeks to do it.
I was gonna take a picture. You wanna take a picture?
Okay, so the 8th then,
8th of August?
August 8th.
All right.
Marge and Sandy, will you be available to attend that? So we can hash out more of this?
Sure.
Okay.
We're sorry we took up your time because you didn't get to the,
Commercial parking and sticker fee.
That's okay. I kinda knew already we wouldn't.
Okay.
I knew you had a lot to unpack with us, and I'm honestly wholeheartedly dedicated this meeting to you all.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it.
So we always start an hour before Cal, so you'll know.
We are important.
Thank you, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so we don't really have time to talk about this.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, I'm gonna give you like 4 minutes.
Okay.
So this lady is the lady, she lived at 1232 Maple.
council meeting.
Oh, that's the one.
We have a lot of
She
people
wants
that
to
were really
relocate-
upset because of the July 2nd.
There's no reason that.
I've gotten some emails from
Her
residents.
landlord gave this.
There was a call out